Welcome to another Apollo Papyrus podcast episode. I'm Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, my interview guest is an expert in business franchising and is the author of the business nonfiction book, Real Freedom: Why Franchises Are Worth Considering and How They Can Be Used for Building Wealth. He is also a contributing author to two other business nonfiction books and hosts a podcast called Franchise Maven. His name is Greg Mohr, and my interview with Greg will follow the teleportation sound. Gregory Mohr, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
Aaron, thank you very much for having me. It's an honor.
Feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners.
I'm Greg Mohr, CEO and founder of Franchise Maven. I've written the book, Real Freedom: Why Franchises Are Worth Considering and How They Can Be Used for Building Wealth, answering any and all questions you have about creating or building up a franchise, getting into a franchise, turning your business into a franchise, everything you always wanted to know or afraid to ask, with real-world examples of people that I worked with.
Tell us a little bit more about your book, Real Freedom: Why Franchises Are Worth Considering and How They Can Be Used for Building Wealth, without spoiling too much of the book.
You got it, Aaron. After 10 years in the business of helping people get into the world of franchising and turning businesses into franchises, I thought, people had the same questions over and over again to begin with. So I thought, I better put a book together so a lot of people can get those questions answered right up front and get to know me a little bit as well. So what I do is I take you through the whole process of how to investigate a franchise, what to look for, questions to ask them, how to determine which franchises would be a best fit for you, how to use funding, what mistakes to avoid and to look out for, franchise attorneys, CPAs, and then in the very last chapter, I also go through turning your business into a franchise. And again, real-world examples of everybody that I've worked with in there, so you can kind of follow the process along, how to investigate the franchise, what questions to ask, what to look for, what to watch out for, franchise disclosure documents. Goes through the whole thing for everybody.
How long did it take you to write your book, Real Freedom?
Well, that was a little bit of work. So I'm really good at math and that sort of thing. English is not my favorite subject. So I would say it took me, with the help of somebody else, probably 9 months or so to get it done.
What were the easiest and hardest parts of writing a business nonfiction book for you?
The easiest parts were knowing what I was going to go over with them and what to present to my people, knowing what they wanted to hear. Since I was getting the same questions asked time and time again, I had the basic format down pretty well. So that part was pretty easy. I could kind of get the general idea of where I wanted to go with that and what I wanted to say. The hard part, since English is not my strong suit, is turning those sentences into actual coherent sentences that actually made sense. So I thought I had everything down and outlined just fine, and I thought, this is cool. So I got the help of a publishing company to help me out, and I got to work with one of their people who helped me turn things into a nice coherent book and coherent sentences. And that was the real challenging part. So I had a general outline, Aaron, all laid out, but just going over the outline probably took, and fine tuning that with the help of the publishing folks, that took me a couple of months, because she was the lady that I worked with. She was really good about that. She, getting into the details. Okay, you need to do a little bit more here. Okay, let's go back to this. Let's put a little more detail on this one. A few more things that you need to add so that it would flow nicely. And then came to the writing. So we'd have the outline, which took a couple months, and then within the outline itself, then I'd have chapters within the outline, and then paragraphs within the chapters. And boy, that took a good 6-7 months to go back and forth with her. She was really thorough about it, and that was a very good experience, because she was just outstanding in saying, you need to go into more detail here. You need to put some more thought into what you're going to say here, how you're going to go through it. We need some more background on you. So that was the biggest challenging part. Biggest and most challenging part was going through with her the outline to begin with, which took a whole lot longer than I thought it was going to, but she was great about making certain that, this is the type of things people are going to want to hear. This is how they're going to want to hear it. They want to know what you have to say, but we need to put it in a great format that'll really get people, hooked on it and wanting to read it.
What was the name of the publishing company that published Real Freedom?
Bestseller Publishing.
Bestseller. And are they a hybrid publisher, a traditional publisher, or?
Rob Kosberg runs that. I don't think that you would call him necessarily a traditional publisher on that, but he does a lot of the marketing for you as well on that. He's got a great team of people that helped me wrote the book, and then just depending on how much marketing you want to do, whether you want to become a bestseller, he would help you with that. So the book itself wasn't too bad to get that written, except for the time frame on that. It did take a lot of work, but then he would go out and market it for you. So if you wanted to be a bestseller on different, like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, New York Times, USA Today, then he did a little bit more marketing or actually a whole lot more marketing for you if you wanted to go that route. So he was not only great at writing the book, he was also great at helping me market the book as well.
In addition to Real Freedom, you're a contributing author to a couple other nonfiction, business nonfiction books. One is called Expert Resilience, How Entrepreneurs Are Leading the Future in Mind, Mastery, and Meaning. And the other is Coaching Inc., the entrepreneur's secret playbook for creating a profitable and scalable coaching business. What are each of those about without spoiling too much of it? And what was it like to work on collaborative book writing projects?
That was fascinating, Aaron. I like working with other people on that. So what we did with Expert Resilience, that was also with Rob Kosberg on that one with Bestseller Publishing. He put a few of the authors together. So we had to get together and determine who was going to write what on that. And I don't know how many 10, 15, 20 writers that we all got together on a regular basis. And we kind of go over a plan for how we're going to put together a cohesive book. And each person determines what chapter they were going to write and what they were going to write about. So it all came together on that. It was a really great experience getting to know all the other writers and all the different entrepreneurs that I worked with on that one. And then Coaching Inc. was with, I forget the gentleman's name, was with somebody completely different on that. And we had a bunch of coaches that got together, and we'd all, pick a different section to write about on that. But it was really fascinating. You get to know all the different authors, different people that you get to work with on that. And I really enjoyed the whole process of working with other people and having them, critique your work and you critique their work, and everybody gets together and, pools their resources on their knowledge and background, which really helped the book along quite a bit. I really enjoyed it. I suggest it to anybody.
When people think of the franchise business model, most people here in the United States are likely to think of large fast food restaurant chains like McDonald's or Arby's that use a franchise model. What are some other types of businesses that use a franchise model?
The ones, Aaron, that people actually have been liking the most here lately will be the essential services, electrical, plumbing, heating and air conditioning. Those are service industries which people just don't necessarily know about. Tutoring, senior care, sign making, dog walking, pet sitting, doggy daycares. Healthcare is a great one to get into. All sorts of different types of healthcare that go out there. A lot of the ones, Aaron, that you and I see, just like you said, is the ones that are the brick and mortar type franchises. When we're driving around there, and this is what we see on a regular basis, and this is what we think about when we think about franchising. The service industry is one where unless you need their services, you really don't know that they exist. And they're huge out there, huge moneymakers, just huge franchises out there that you can do. Restoration services, the Belfour Group, for instance, who, unless you paid attention to like who was doing what over there with that big Hurricane Katrina, they did half the cleanup for Katrina, and they run 1-800 water damage, ducts, hoods, pack outs. Huge company, the largest restoration company in the United States, but you don't necessarily hear about them unless you're paying attention to the news and who is actually doing the work out there, but you don't know about them unless you actually need their services. Basically, if it's broke, it's got to be fixed. It's got to be fixed now, and quite often the insurance company will pay for it.
Why is the franchise model not for every entrepreneur, and what types of business people would be most likely to succeed using a franchise model?
The people that are most likely to succeed are those that can follow a process and have some type of risk tolerance. Starting a business is always going to be a little bit risky. There's always a risk there. So people who are completely risk intolerant, stick with your day job, stick with your paycheck every 2 weeks, and they got the company running it, and do your best to stay on and not get laid off. If you're not coachable and you can't follow a process, probably not a franchise. Franchise is probably not for you on there. So got to have some risk tolerance. You got to be coachable. You can have a mentor on that one. Those are the people that are really good for it. I would say some of my younger entrepreneurs that have a lot of energy and have their own ideas, franchising may not be the best fit in the world to start off with on that. It's kind of funny. My older entrepreneurs who said, they've come to me and they're like, I've owned and operated and sold 5 businesses. I'm looking to get into a franchise business. And I'm telling them, like, why are you coming to me? You've done all this before. You know what to do. Why do you want a franchise? And they're like, well, I know what it takes to build up that business, and I do not want to go through that again. I just want to walk into a business where I've got that process all set up. I know they've got a proven track record of success. I can follow that process. I can be mentored. I'm good with that. That's what I want to do. So you got to be able to follow a process. You got to be able to be mentored, and you have to have some amount of risk tolerance.
You run the franchise consulting firm Franchise Maven. What services does Franchise Maven provide to its customers, which I'm assuming are entrepreneurs in a franchised business?
So what we do, Aaron, is first off, my services are free to the people I work with. I work with about 500 different franchisors. People come to me when they want to get into the franchise business, but they do not know exactly which franchise they want to get into. So we go through a process of finding out, and I've got a step-by-step process to find out what will be of interest to them. And then I find out from the franchisors in my client's particular area what franchises is good fit for them on that. That's how I go through and help my folks out. Again, I'm free. My services are free. Any franchise consultant, their services are free for that. Franchisors pay us a referral fee. And the people I work with they're aspiring entrepreneurs. They're not necessarily entrepreneurs right now. I work with a lot of what we call corporate refugees, people who want to get out of the corporate world. They're tired of that and they want to get into the business of their own. And I also work with just investors who are still in the corporate world, love their jobs, want to stay there, and just want something on the side because they want to build a business of their own. So it's an amazing wide variety of people, wide variety of different things they want to do. So we work with 500 different franchises. I don't know everything about all 500, but within each industry, there's a franchise in just about every industry, I know with a few of the good ones that are doing quite well, where when I put my people in front of them, I know that they're going to hear good things about it, things that they want to hear out of that.
One final question. You host the Franchise Maven podcast. What can listeners expect from a typical episode of your podcast?
Aaron, anything and everything to do with how to run your business, how to build up your business, how to market it, how to sell it, how to get funding for it, how to do a good exit strategy. We're also going to hear from different franchisors, how they built up their business and how they're being successful in doing it. So it's really centered all around business, and a few authors as well. Since I wrote a book, I also put some authors in there, and you'll hear some things about writing your book, how to write a book, why you should write a book, because nobody's heard about it from your point of view. Even if other people in your industry have written a book before, it doesn't make any difference because nobody's heard it from your point of view. But everything to do with business, all sorts of ancillary things that go with business. I've got funding people out there. I've got franchise attorneys that run it, exit strategies, how to get it acquired if you want to, how to find PE groups to acquire it, and how to do good exit strategies. So all sorts of great information around businesses and around writing books.
Greg, thank you for appearing on Apollo Papyrus. You were an interesting guest.
Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it. You're a great host as well.
It was interesting to interview Greg. As always, I'll include relevant links in the text description of this episode. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to find your writing and reading purpose. Bye for now. Copyright 2024, Aaron Apollo Camp, all rights reserved. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited, except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.